Well, it is so good to be with you today, and welcome to this week's gathering here at Bayside. I don't know what your week was like. It may have been good, it may have been bad, it may have been confusing. Who knows? All I do know is that you've come to the right place today. And so before we get to worship, and before we get to some content for the kids and a message as we continue in our series called Stay Positive, I do want to share just a few things with you today. First thing is that every single Sunday, we've got a drive-in gathering that we're hosting at the church, and we would love to see you at it. We have materials for the kids, so if you want to bring your kids, go ahead and do it. We'll make sure that you got stuff for them to not just keep them busy in the car, but to just be able to give them something to engage in as well. We've got worship, we have a message, we try to make it as normal as possible. But one thing that we have also added to it is it's not just a drive-in gathering, it's also an outdoor gathering. What we mean by that is if you want to bring a chair, if you want to bring one of your lawn chairs or whatever, we just ask like, hey, do it, bring it. We'd love for you to be able to get outside of your car. You can enjoy the sunshine, if there is any sunshine, and just listen to it from the outside. We know that you can come to these kinds of things, you don't see your family, you don't see your friends, you know, depending on who you're parked next to, that's who you're with. And so we just would love to give you a little bit more freedom there. And then on top of that, because things have changed and things are changing, on our website we have a reopening plan as well as a survey. Please go take a look at it. We're going to be updating that plan in the near future, just as more phases move forward and whatnot. But the survey is really, really important. We want your input so that we can kind of take that to heart and prepare for the next season here at Bayside. And so please take a look at that. When you're on the website, go to our in-house page. You'll see content there for your families. We put together activities. We get some videos out there for the kids. You'll find ways that you can give. You can do that either through mail-in, or you can do it directly from the website. There's a couple ways to do that. And then we also just have an app. You can download it. It's on Android or Apple. You just search for our church once you download the Church Center app. Sign up real quick. It is really, really helpful and easy. And so we just encourage you to find out the things that we have for you. Find podcasts, all of it, previous gatherings. And thank you for supporting us. Thank you for giving. Thank you for just worshiping God in as many ways as you possibly can. And so, again, we just hope that today's gathering is an encouragement to you, that in the midst of turmoil and some chaos and questions and all those things, you can just kind of rest in God over the next hour. And so, hey, have a great gathering. We love you, and enjoy this worship.
Done.
For the Lord our God is able. Walking around these walls, I thought by now they'd fall, but you have never failed me yet. Waiting for change to come, knowing the battle's won, for you have never failed me yet. Your promise still stands, great is your faithfulness, faithfulness. I'm still in your hands, this is my confidence, never failed me yet, never failed me yet. I know the night won't last, your word will come to pass. My heart will sing your praise again. Jesus,
friends, Miss Michelle here. I get to chat with you today about love. So, no matter what happens in the world, Jesus has promised to be with us, right? And he's given us an important job. You probably remember the 12 disciples. Those are the 12 closest friends of Jesus who helped him in his ministry, hung out with him. They actually participated in the ministry, and they saw Jesus do incredible things, just incredible things. They saw him heal people and feed thousands off of just the little boy's lunch. He turned water into wine just like that. He breathed life into people and brought them back to life. He loved people who he wasn't expected to, who the culture would actually expect him to not talk to at all. He did incredible things. But the most incredible thing that Jesus did was he took all of our yuck, everything that separates us from God, all of our sin, all of our tricky moments, all of our poor choices, all of our pain, everything. He took all of that yucky stuff and he took it with him to the cross, and he paid for it with his own life, and he left it there. So then he came back. He says, hey guys, I got rid of it. You don't have to deal with that anymore. Just stick with me. Just go out and love people the way that I have loved you. That's what you need to do. Where is it in Mark? Jesus says, the most important thing is that you love the Lord your God with all your heart and all your mind and all your strength and all your soul and all of it. That's the most important thing. But the second most important thing is that you love your neighbor as yourself. So, what he says is, if you set down that sin, then I can help you love people the way that I love you, without asking questions first, and with compassion and grace and empathy and respect. And then we understand how heavy it is to still be carrying around that sin, and how those who are need our love and how they need Jesus. So Jesus went back to his disciples and he said, I'm back. Took care of that sin stuff, but now I need you to go tell everybody. He said, I can't stick around, but I am gonna leave you some help. My spirit is gonna be with you, and I want you to share it with everyone in love. And those people will share it with more people, and those people will share it with more people, and those people will share it with more people. Eventually it gets to us. Someone shared it with us, and now we share it with more people, and those people will share it with more people, and it just goes on and on and on. Right now, the world is having a conversation about the value and importance of people. But we already know how Jesus feels about people because we've seen it. He made sure to show extra love to anyone who wasn't being treated well, or with as much love, or just differently. He had extra love for anyone who was struggling. He had extra love for anyone who was struggling with their own sin. He had extra love for anyone who was struggling because of someone else's sin. He just had extra love, no matter who they were and no matter what they had done. Just like he's had extra love for us, no matter who we are and no matter what we've done. And just like he expects us to love people, no matter who they are and no matter what they've done, because he first loved us. That's in 1 John 4:19, we love because he first loved us. So Miss Kim has an experiment that she's going to do with us today. And we're going to see what it looks like to ask Jesus for help to get that sin out of the way so that we can love people the way that he wants us to. So.
Okay guys, so this is us. We are loving and we are showing respect and grace to other people. And we are working it out. But a problem that we have is that we have our own sin in our lives. And we can't get the sin out on our own. We can't get it out of the way. But if we ask God for help, he removes the sin and we can love like Jesus.
When the guy at the gym is muscle bound, you look in the mirror but you're still round. Don't lose heart, you'll lose those pounds. Don't let it get you down, stay positive. When you take a test and don't do so hot, you think you studied enough, but maybe not. The next one you'll give it all you got and see you're smarter than what you thought. Stay positive.
All right, well, we are in week 3 of our Stay Positive series. And before we get to it, do want to say Happy Father's Day, dads. A little different this year, but hopefully it'll be a time where, I don't know, relax, watch some pre-recorded sporting event from years ago, barbecue, any number of things. But man, dads, you are essential, and that word is thrown out a lot right now. But you are essential, and in a society that tries to minimize and downplay the role of fathers, or in a society that kind of points to the bad stories we hear about fathers that have struggled, or any number of things, in a society that basically pushes back against fatherhood, I want you just to know that you are so important to your family. You're so important to your children. You're so important to your spouse. And so just keep it up. Keep going. It is tough right now. But I believe that, hey, if we can work hard at it, and then we can remember that God's going to show us some grace, and we're going to rely on him, we'll just continue to love our kids to the best of our ability and help them. And I think it just is important in regards to what we're going to talk about today. So dads, if you're listening, I hope your ears perk up a little bit here, because you play a significant part in the things we want to talk about today in relation to confidence. Confidence is what I want to talk about today. And you know, when it comes to staying positive, that can be hard. It can be tough. It can be challenging. The weather's getting a little bit better, so maybe that'll help. But over the last couple weeks, we have been, kind of just working through some things. And we have faced some things as a society, and as a church, and as communities, and as families, and it's been hard. And there are things that we'll just continue to walk through, and we'll continue to just be the best example of what it means to follow Jesus. But for my family, as things have been kind of changing, with the changes that we've been dealing with, has also just been what we've been hoping for, right, in all of this, and that is the easing off of certain restrictions. And we've had certain freedoms now to go and go to a restaurant. My wife and I, we did something crazy. This last week, we went out on a date without our kids. We went to a restaurant and sat. It was like, I don't know how to describe it. I mean, there's heaven, and then there's what we just experienced. I mean, it was great. And maybe you guys have been doing that too. And so things are changing. We're trying to stay positive. We're looking on the bright side of all of this, okay? So that's what we're doing. Now, today, what I want to do is I want to talk about confidence. And I'll get into it a little bit more. There's going to be two different kinds of confidences that we're gonna see. But I just want to give you a heads up. Like, I'm going to try to be vulnerable, try to be open, and share some things that I don't always talk about. These aren't like skeletons in my closet. These aren't deep, dark, secrets that the pastor has or anything like that. But there are some aspects of this that if I'm open, hopefully it will help you be open and reflective as well. So, hey, when it comes to confidence, let me just start with myself. If we're going to talk about this, the best person that I can talk about in regards to it is myself. Did you ever have those people that believed in you at an early stage in life, even when you weren't even sure if you believed in yourself? I'm sure we can all think of somebody who has been a positive influence in our lives, but has kind of gone a step further and has just been an encourager and has helped us just be successful at the things that we are striving to do, even when we feel like we're not being successful. And that is the key. Now, I can't speak for every pastor out there, but this is an interesting question, I think, to start this off for me personally. Because, again, I don't know of every guy that's in ministry, every gal that's in ministry, but I have gone through times in the past 12 years where I've had, doubts in whether or not I really know what to do. Am I doing it right? Why are people coming? This doesn't seem to be working, and yet, and so confidence at times has been something, not all the time, but you have those moments, right? I've had those moments. You don't see the kind of results you were hoping for. You do something, you put a bunch of energy into it, and then nothing happens. And you feel like, wow, that was a huge failure. So those are things that I've dealt with, and you've probably dealt with as well, in whatever you do. And along the way, though, I've had those people that always have believed in me and have always said, like, hey, man, like, you're fine. You're doing what you're supposed to. You've probably set the bar a little too high. And if there is one thing that I am guilty of, it is that I usually set the bar pretty high. But there have always been people that have seen kind of things in me that I don't even necessarily see. And you can probably think of those people in your life as well. Maybe you have experienced these same confidence issues in different areas. Could be your marriage, could be your job, could be as a parent. Man, right now, holy cow, you want to talk about times where your confidence might be shook a little bit. As a parent, just walk through the quarantine time and the homeschooling and all those different things, and you'll take a long look in the mirror, right? But it doesn't take a whole lot to rattle us, regardless of whether we're in a quarantine or not. It could just be somebody that gives you an awkward look, and you've got those self-conscious things, and they kind of start to like, what's wrong? Why'd they look at me like that? Is something wrong? Or you see people laughing. And then they look your way, and you're like, they must be laughing at me. I must have done something stupid. I must have done something ridiculous. We can struggle to handle relationships. We can struggle to handle our families, and it can rattle our confidence. Now, I do think we get a little bit of a pass right now in light of everything that we've been dealing with, okay? Because it's been hard. And it's been different, and none of us were necessarily prepared for it. You probably didn't go, if you went to college, you probably didn't go to a class that was like how to parent during a pandemic, okay? I definitely have never taken a class on leading a church during quarantines and pandemics, okay? You're learning on the fly, right? But hey, there are plenty of things that have been hard, and they have affected us. Case in point, man, it is, at least for me, I guess I can't speak for everyone, but social skills, I don't know what happened, but we've gotten kind of awkward socially. I've dealt with it. It's like if you don't talk to people for a while, it's not so much that you don't know how to talk to them. It's that the first time you start seeing them, you're over talking, right? And you're just like so desperate to be around people that like you're treating them like they're your long lost sibling or something. The other side of it too is like you're trying to be polite to people, but you can't see their faces. Now I'd share this example because twice I've been in a grocery store and been convinced that somebody standing in front of me was one of you from our church. And even though I couldn't see their whole face, it sure looked like someone. I'm not going to say who. And so I'm like, hey, how's it going? So-and-so. And they will turn around to me and it's a total stranger, right? I mean, and then you have that awkward moment of like, oh, you're not at all who I thought you were. Luckily, both times these people said that it's already happened to them once before, so I didn't need to worry about it. But hey, that's kind of what we're dealing with right now. And even something like that could potentially rattle your cages a little bit. And so we can face any number of situations that can affect our confidence, right? As a parent, okay, I see how other dads are doing with their kids. It's Father's Day, so we might as well talk about this. As a parent, man, there's these dads out there and you see it and they're like taking their kids on like adventure hikes. They're doing all these crazy creative things. You know, somehow they've learned the art of homeschooling in less than 48 hours and they've got their kids that when they're in first grade, like they're prepared for pre-calculus. And then there's the other side of it. It's like the dads out there that I see, some people I know and I talk to them and they're just like, oh yeah, you know, the weekly devotions with my 5-year-old have been going really well. Or yeah, I get together with I take my 8-year-old to such and such place and we just talk about life. And I'm like, yeah, no, I do the same thing. Yeah, we have some seriously deep conversations with my soon-to-be kindergartner and third grader. There's any number of things there, right? And you can hear about that and then you can be like, what am I doing wrong? Right? Where's my confidence in this? Like, I clearly am not measuring up. Now, listen, since we're getting real, I told you I was going to be kind of vulnerable. Since we're getting real, we've had 2 drive-in gatherings so far. Now, if you're watching this after Father's Day, then we have now had 3 drive-in gatherings. So I'm going to speak prophetically a little bit here. But after the first 2, let me just tell you what happened when I drove off. Each time I drove away and I thought, that message was awful. Like, it just did not, they just didn't seem like, I mean, there's the aspect of like, I can't really see anyone, so I hope I'm connecting with them. I can't tell, but that person may have actually nodded off over there in their car. Like, do we got to do the fairy thing where we go knock on their window to tell them that church is over? Like both times I've drove away and just thought like, that was not a good message. And there's a part of me that's starting to feel like, do I even know how to speak to humans anymore? Because all I'm doing is what I'm doing right now. I'm speaking to a camera. Now I'm being a little dramatic, but I think you get the point. The feeling of inadequacy has the capability of being paralyzing. And it can keep us, more importantly, from realizing and recognizing who God wants us to be, who has created us to be, and what God wants to do inside of us. So here's the foundation of this morning's message. I don't believe we need more self-confidence. I believe that we need more God confidence. I want to be intentional, and I'm going to use a word, cultivate. It's not really a buzzword that's getting thrown around right now. You don't hear cultivate in the news all that often because it's just not one that's being used a whole lot. But I do want to use it here. I want to be intentional in the sense because we need to slowly cultivate God confidence. Because let's just level with ourselves. Self-confidence just doesn't really cut it, does it? And so I think the reason why is really not that complicated. You know, Jeremiah 17 tells us something interesting in regards to this. It actually tells us that our hearts are deceitful. So why would you put your confidence in something that is always going to let you down? To make it even a little more impactful, why would you put your confidence in something that is going to lie to you? It's going to trick you. Jesus tells us in Matthew that the flesh, that we as human beings is weak. We are weak. We are not enough. Who wants to put your confidence in something that's weak? Even Paul, when he writes to the Romans, what does he say? He says that his behavior is inconsistent, right? It's the things I want to do, I don't do. The things I don't want to do, I end up doing. I mean, this is Paul that's saying this. And so we let ourselves down all the time, and we can struggle with confidence. And so why put the lion's share of attention on that when you could actually focus instead on God confidence? Psalm 57:7 tells it this way, and this is David. He says, "My heart is confident in you, O God." My heart is confident. And this was not a pep talk. This is when, David's trying to convince himself, oh man, my heart is confident in you, God. And he's just repeating it over and over and over again. This is real. He realized it, he recognized it, and that's where his heart was. David had it figured out right here. It's having a life that's defined by who God is and who God says you are, not who you say you are or other things around you say you are. So let me just give you 3 truths to cultivate God confidence, and also just let you know, man, this is a treat of a message because it's going to be a little quicker. So dads, you're welcome. Here's my gift to you. The reason why I want to give you truths today is because I think we need to take these truths and we need to replace the lies that often exist. There's things that we think and there's things that we tell ourselves, or there's things that other people or other things tell us that ultimately lie to us, right? Again, I just talked about that. So let's replace those lies with truth. And ultimate truth, absolute truth, only comes from God. So here's the first one. God is always for you. God is always for you. This might sound a little familiar to you if you happen to listen to our midweek hangout. That's what I call it. I jump on Facebook every Wednesday night and we just discuss some stuff. And I talked kind of a little bit about this in one part of it. So this might sound a little familiar to you if you heard that. One of the common beliefs that's out there is that God is out there to get you, right? He's kind of looking for you to make a mistake, and then he's going to jump. He's like, I got you. I knew you were going to make that mistake. I knew you were going to sin that way because I'm God. I know all these things, and now I'm going to pounce on you. And there's that belief out there, right? God is not necessarily looking for what's best. He's just sitting on the edge of his seat waiting to get you. He's watching you, and he's waiting. He's on edge. He's going to get you. And if you're a parent, think about how you parent your kids. Hopefully, probably, that's not how you parent, right? You're not out to get your kids. You're not watching them so that they get in trouble and you can bust them. No, it's likely you celebrate the good things instead. You don't look to find the bad things. Well, that's how God works. We're his children. That's how he operates with us. If you're a parent, if you're a dad, right? If you're a mom, you engage in the difficult things that you need to engage in with your children, right? You have rules and you have consequences if rules are broken, and you have tough conversations and you walk through things. Right now in our society, we as families need to be discussing the ways in which we need to treat each other, and that isn't determined by belief systems, that's not determined by background, it's not determined by family heritage, it's not determined by skin colors, it's not even determined by whether you love Jesus or not, right? And so these are the tough conversations that we need to have, and you go through these difficult things because you ultimately want what's best for your kids. You want to raise them up to be who God has designed them to be. To ultimately know their identity. And that their identity isn't found in all these other things. It's found in Jesus, right? To know that confidence doesn't lie in whether they're good at something or they're not good at something. It really lies in that identity that God has given them. It's ultimately, man, it's the real life example of what Paul said to the Roman church when he said, if God is for me, who can be against me? Or if God is for you, who can be against you? I have some competitive kids at home, and my daughter hasn't really caught on to it yet. I'm sure she will eventually. Corbin, he's only 9 months, but he's getting pretty competitive in regards to like food. But my oldest is especially competitive. My middle child, call him middle. Do you have a middle if you've got 4 kids? Micah, he's getting competitive, but they're competitive. They want to be successful at what they do. They want to win. And when there's things that they're passionate about, they want to be the best. And I mean, I'll level with you. I kind of like that. I kind of like having competitive children and having kids that want to be good at it, especially with athletics. Like, hey, like, you want them to play fair and follow the rules, but like, there's something in my heart that goes a little bit faster when I know that my son wants to be great at baseball. Anyways, my oldest, he oftentimes looks at things as like, I got to perfect this. This is my craft. I need to be great at it. And what I have found, and we'll look a little bit deeper at this in a broad sense, is that when I respond well to his pursuits at things, and they know that I believe in them and that I'm supporting them, well, obviously they react better. They're more focused, they have more fun, they learn better when they know that I'm in their corner. Well, guess what? This isn't just some little family lesson I'm sharing with you today. That's exactly what God is doing for every single person right now. He's in your corner. He believes in you. He wants you to be successful. Craig Rochelle, who's the pastor of Life Church, all over the place. I mean, Life Church is all around the world. And he said this once. He said, we don't live our lives chasing the approval of God. We live our lives as an overflow from what from what we already have. And I think that is just a beautiful example of this, that we don't live our lives chasing the approval of God. Right? Your life should not be trying to do things to make God happy. Instead, we should live a life that is an overflow of what we already have. That our lives should overflow out of His approval. That is already there because we've committed our lives to Him. Hebrews 10:35 says, so do not throw away this confident trust in the Lord. Remember the great reward it brings you. Maybe right now you're trying to climb out of debt and you feel like you're never going to make it. And that credit card debt or whatever kind of debt you have just seems huge. Maybe right now you're trying to salvage a marriage or repair a marriage, reconcile. And it seems like there's just been too much damage. There's too much distance. You don't even know how to talk to each other anymore. Maybe you're trying to establish a future. Maybe you're a graduate and you're looking at the landscape of everything right now and you're thinking to yourself, man, what is the future going to even look like for me? Where do I go to college? What is college even going to look like? Maybe you're taking on a new endeavor or trying to figure out like your job and what the future looks like for that. Listen, let me just tell you, in the midst of all of those things, God is for you. He is for you. And so that's the very first thing. Like, we got to just recognize, man, God has your back. He's in your corner and He's for you. The second thing is this: God always helps you. He always helps you. Hebrews 13:5 says, never will I leave you. Never will I forsake you. Never. I mean, the word never literally means never. Now, I am certain that you have uncertainty in your life. That's the one thing I'm certain of this morning. You've got some uncertainty in your life. You kind of feel like, man, I don't know if I got the tools to do this, or I don't know if I'm equipped to do that, or I'm not sure if I'm really qualified to make this happen. Where do you feel like you need some help? Where do you feel like you just don't measure up? You know, we've been dealing with tough times right now. And even though things are changing a little bit and it might feel like things are getting better, we're still in some tough times. But one of the things that I've seen happen is that relationships have been brought to the forefront. And people have gotten really creative with the ways in which they have remained in relationship and interacted together. I think that one of the lessons we've learned from this is that, man, our lives, our souls, our existence is designed to be in relationship. And a huge portion of that is with each other. And so there's all these creative ways that people have developed relationships. And as the church has done such a good job of recognizing that. And we've seen tens of thousands of people come to know who Jesus is through online streams and different things like that. And so I tell you that because God has been doing things. God has been helping in things, but there might be things that you've recognized in other people's lives. Right? I reference relationships, and maybe you've seen specific relationships in marriages around you, and marriages have been restored, pre-COVID, during it, whenever. Good things have happened, and you've watched that, and then you've looked at your own, and you've thought, man, that's what I want. Why hasn't God done that for me? Maybe you've seen other people that have gotten good jobs or progressed, and you've thought to yourself, man, God, I pray about this all the time, and I'm still stuck. Why hasn't it happened for me? Again, it could be that finances and debt and any number of things. Here's the thing. We oftentimes pursue those things, and we should, but what you just need to be reminded of today is that what God has done for other people, what God has done for other things, He will do those things again. He can do those things again. They may not look exactly the same. In fact, I'm pretty confident they won't look exactly the same. But He can do it again. And what we have to know is that in our weakness, His strength is made perfect. In those moments, we're just like, I don't know what to do. Everything's falling apart. God's strength is made perfect there. And we've had plenty of weakness in the last 4 months. But I believe that in the next year, 2 years, how long you got to go down the line, you're going to be able to look back. And if you pay attention and you're willing to see it, I guarantee you that you'll look back on this time and you'll be able to recognize where God was in the midst of everything. And that He was right here with you. And I think there's just something about knowing God is present that ultimately will change the atmosphere of your life. Psalm 46:1 says what? It says, God is our refuge and He's our strength and ever-present help in trouble. And that word ever present is so important, because if you are unsure of what to do in the situation that you found yourself in, just invite God's presence into your life. If you followed Jesus for a long time, still do it. Invite God to be present with you. You know why He's called Emmanuel? Because He literally is Emmanuel, which means God with us. So God is present and He cares for you. And here's the third thing. God is still working for you. And God is still working in you. I referenced this earlier, and I've mentioned it multiple times. My oldest loves playing baseball. Loves baseball. I mean, both he and his brother just love baseball. And this last year, my oldest had his first year of machine pitch. And he did well. He did real well. And I remember I had this proud dad moment at the end of the year where I heard another dad talking to a dad from a different team. And this other dad, his son was on our team and gotten to know him and things like that. And I overheard him telling this other guy when my oldest was around, he said, yeah, man, that kid's the best hitter in the league. And I just, you have that moment where you're like, yeah, that's my son kind of thing. And it was this special, special moment. And this year, no baseball, right? No Little League. I mean, we just don't have baseball in general. And the kids, they've been trying to play like in the backyard or in the front yard, but obviously it's not the same as always. And so we've gone out and we've thrown some pitches, and Elliot's kind of knocking the rust off. And this, it's just natural, right? If you don't play something all the time, or you don't do something all the time, it takes a little while. But here's the reason why I tell you this story. I told you I'm going to be vulnerable. There's been times where I've gone out and I'll throw him some pitches, and he's like kind of fouling them off, or he's missing them. And I've had those moments where I'm just like, I'm getting frustrated. And I'm thinking to myself, like, what is going on? Like, he was hitting this thing like 600 feet. And now, like, I don't know what's happening. And Elliot, again, he's a perfectionist, whether he knows it or not. And he's a lot like me, because that's how I work. And so, he wants to be great at it. So it's just like, no, I'm just going to keep grinding away. And the next thing you know, it's like, what are we doing? Like, are we even playing a game anymore? And then afterward, I get mad at myself, because I'm saying to him, this is a 8-year-old. Like, he's not trying out for Major League Baseball. And it's in those moments where I'm just thinking to myself, man, what is wrong with me? Right? Like, I'm supposed to be an adult here. I'm a dad who loves Jesus. I'm a pastor. Like, I'm not allowed to do these kinds of things. Not supposed to act this way. Now, here's the thing. I tell you that because isn't it frustrating when we continue to struggle with things that we've struggled with before? I mean, isn't it frustrating? Where there's things that you've dealt with for a long time and you're just like, no, I got to stop. God, help me stop. And it just keeps happening. I just have to remind myself in those moments. And I think we all need to be reminded of this. We're not finished products. You're not a finished product. I'm not a finished product. God's not done with us, and He's got more to do. God has started something good in you. And He's gonna see that it is done, and He's gonna be faithful to see it until it's complete. He has started something good in you, a good work, and He will faithfully see it through to the end. God does not quit. He just doesn't. He doesn't even get frustrated, in a sense. He doesn't, and when I say He doesn't get frustrated, he doesn't like throw His hands up in the air and just be like, well, I tried with you, but you're too stubborn. So forget it. No, He doesn't act that way. Listen, I say that He's begun a good work in you that He will see through to completion, but here's the other side of it. We will never see that completion until we reach the end of the race, until we are with Him in heaven, until it's complete, until you're with your Creator. Here's the deal. You're a work in progress. It doesn't matter how seasoned you are. It doesn't matter how old you are. It doesn't matter what kind of wisdom or life experience you've got. You're still a work in progress. So work hard to reflect God. Put in the work, but also don't be too hard on yourself. Remember, we want to be like Christ. We want to reflect Him. Our minds need to be like Christ. But in those moments where we come up short, just remember He has grace and He has forgiveness. Listen, if you have doubts about God and you have doubts about the things He has for your life, He's not done with you. You got some bad habits, some things you need to get over? Well, God's not done with you. If you've been neglecting His word and it's been hard for you to spend time in His presence, God's not done with you. I believe this truth is critical. Because if we live our lives fueled by the lie that we are not good enough, or God has made a mistake and we're like a broken product, or somehow we got busted somewhere along the line on the assembly line. I mean, it'll make us feel useless. And it'll make us operate in a sense of uselessness. Because here's the deal. Scripture tells you and I that we have a purpose. That there is something far greater that God wants to do in each of us. And it's not just a purpose, it's a right purpose. But our purpose is only as powerful as how we live out the truth of God. And so if you feel like you're not good enough, you're never really going to live that truth out. Your circumstances don't define you. And you might know that here, but we need to know that here. You're more than an overcomer. The promises of God are what? They are yes and amen for those who follow Him. You're a co-heir with Christ. And so as we finish this up this morning, when we get it in our heart and not just in our head, when this all clicks, you know what happens is we become spiritually dangerous. And I'm not talking about in a bad way, in a really good way. We change the temperature around us. So how will you go to God this week to reshape your desire for God confidence rather than self-confidence? Let's pray. God, I thank you today that we're with you. I thank you that you have put in our hearts the kind of confidence that we need when we seek you out. Be with us this week, Lord, as we face challenges, as we deal with things. Lord, we just trust in you. We love you, Lord, in your name. Amen.
Every heart that is Hearts will cry, these bones will sing. Great are you, Lord. All the earth will shout your praise. Our hearts will cry, these bones will sing. Great are you, Lord. All the earth will shout your praise. Our hearts will cry, these bones will sing. Great are you, Lord. It's your breath in our lungs, so we pour out our praise, pour out our praise. It's your breath in our lungs, so we pour out our praise. You only. It's your breath in our lungs, so we pour out our praise, pour out our praise. It's your breath in our lungs, so we pour out our praise to you only. Great are you, Lord. Great are you, Lord. Great are you, Lord. Give life, you are love. You bring light to the darkness. You give hope. You restore every heart that is broken. Great are you, Lord. Great are you, Lord. Great are you, Lord.
Well, I hope that today's gathering was a real blessing to you. And whether it was the content for your family and for your kids or the time of worship, hopefully this message and this series that we've been in has not only challenged you, has not only kind of maybe pushed you, but has really just strengthened you, kind of lifted up your joy. I think we need that now in ways that we don't even necessarily realize. So in light of everything that's going on, I know this week you're going to have something that's going to come along the way that's going to challenge how you view yourself. Some sort of insecurity, something. I just pray you would lean into that God confidence. That's where you would put just kind of your anchor. And self-confidence, just don't worry about it. Worry about what God is telling you today. And so, hey, we're praying for you. We love you. If you have any questions, if you have any prayer requests, if you ever want to reach us, just go to the website. You can email us. You can find all of our contact info right there, and we will reach out to you. Have a great week, and we'll see you next time.